Call this meeting to order. It's now 5 after 9 o'clock. I'm going to start by doing a roll call on the advisory committee members. If you could just say here. David Litsky.
Here.
Kevin Rayleigh.
Here.
John Ammons.
Here.
John Gibby.
Here.
Kyle Etheridge.
Here.
Okay, and I'm just going to confirm the guests in the room. Tom Ammons.
That's me, John.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah.
You have fancy handwriting.
That's what happens when you're a professor for 33 years. You can't spell or write. Right, Dave?
I'm going to go with Gabe Krantz, Randy Etheridge, and Scott Fellwalk. Is there anyone else that hasn't signed in that may want to speak during the rulemaking hearing? All right. This rulemaking hearing of the Tennessee Professional Soil Scientist Licensing Program is taking place in Conference Room 1B of the Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee. And notice of the board meeting was posted on the Soil Scientist website on October 17th, 2013. Mr. Herndon, will you begin the proceedings?
This rulemaking hearing is called to order. My name is Robert Herndon. I serve as attorney for the Tennessee Professional Soil Scientist Program. Would the agency representatives who are present introduce themselves for the record?
Donna Mulder, Administrative Director.
Nicole Avers, Executive Director.
It's Tuesday, October 29th, 2013. This rulemaking hearing is taking place pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 4-5-204 in Conference Room 1B of the Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit comments on rules the Professional Soil Scientist Program is proposing to update its administrative rules. The Professional Soil Scientist Program is proposing these rules amendments because the Department of Commerce and Insurance has identified the need to update administrative practices regarding the practice of soil science in order to better protect the public health, safety, and welfare. A rule is defined as an agency statement of general applicability that implements or prescribes law or policy or describes the procedures or practice requirements of the agency. Proposed rules are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State. Notice is given to the public for comment and a rulemaking hearing is held. Upon conclusion of the hearing and adoption of the proposed rules, the rules are forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review of legality. If approved, they are filed with the Secretary of State, which is responsible for publication, and the Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules must stay in the Secretary of State's office for 90 days, the end of which time will be the effective date. Those members of the public wishing to speak should sign up at the table at the front of the room, and only those who have signed will be permitted to speak. The notice of rulemaking hearing included the entire text of the proposed rules and was filed with the Secretary of State and published on its Administrative Register website on August 29th, 2013. Ms. Mulder, what additional notice was given to the affected individuals or groups?
They were placed on the Soil Scientist website, and they were also sent out by email through the state's Notify program.
As the agency hears public comment on the proposed rules, I, as moderator, reserve the right to limit such comments if they become repetitive. Please limit your comments accordingly. I will read the substance of the proposed rules into the record. Chapter 0780-05-06 Soil Scientist. Heading Amendments. Rule 0780-05-06-.04 Application Requirements is amended by deleting subparagraph 1A in its entirety and substituting instead the following, so that as amended, the subparagraph shall read, any person who desires to obtain a license as a professional soil scientist shall submit an application to the Commissioner, along with the required application fee and all required documentation, including proof that the applicant has, subparagraph A, has graduated from an accredited college or university with a Bachelor of Science degree or higher in soils, agronomy, or a closely related field. The applicant shall have successfully completed the number of semester hours of coursework in soil science as required by TCA 6218-208A1. Second heading, New Rules. 0780-05-06-.02 Definitions. Definitions for this chapter should be as follows. Paragraph 1. Inactive means a professional soil scientist who has obtained inactive status from the Commissioner and is not required to comply with continuing education requirements as prescribed herein. An inactive professional soil scientist may not engage in the practice of soil science while in such status. Paragraph 2. Retired means a professional soil scientist who has obtained retired status from the Commissioner and is not required to comply with continuing education or renewal requirements or pay renewal fees as prescribed herein. A retired professional soil scientist may not engage in the practice of soil science, and a license in retired status may not be reactivated. Rule 0780-05-06-.05 Renewal Requirements. Paragraph 1. A license issued to a licensed professional soil scientist pursuant to this chapter shall expire 2 years from the date of its issuance and shall become invalid on such date unless renewed. 2. In order to renew his or her license, a licensee shall submit a renewal application with renewal fee and with any other prerequisites for renewal. 3. A licensee who fails to pay the renewal fee, the applicable late penalty, or otherwise fails to comply with any of the prerequisites for renewal of a license before the expiration date of the license will have 6 months after the expiration date of the license to renew the license upon payment of the renewal fee, payment of a late penalty of $25 for each month or fraction of a month that renewal is late, and submit proof of compliance with any other prerequisites to renewal. 4. Any person seeking renewal of a license more than 6 months after the expiration date of the license is required to reapply for licensure and fulfill all the requirements for initial licensure. Rule 0780-05-06-.06 Retired or inactive status exemptions. Paragraph 1. A licensee may request to place his license in inactive or retired status by submitting a written request to place his or her license in inactive or retired status to the Commissioner, and B, paying an inactive or retirement fee. 2. A licensee may request to have his or her license reinstated after it's been placed in inactive status by A, submitting a written request to have his or her license returned to active status, B, paying a reinstatement fee, and C, submitting evidence satisfactory to the Commissioner that the licensee has completed 12 hours of continuing education in the 2 years immediately preceding the date of the request for reinstatement. Rule 0780-05-06-.08 Seals. Paragraph 1. The design of a licensee seal is required by TCA Section 6218-211-2 should be 2 inches in diameter and shall appear as follows, regardless of whether it is applied to documentation through physical or electronic means. Follows, sort of redundant. 2. The licensee shall fix his or her seal to all original sheets of any bound or unbound plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil scientist papers or documents involving soil science work developed by the licensee or under the licensee's responsible charge of work. 3. The licensee shall superimpose his or her signature and date of signature across the face and beyond the circumference of the seal on the documents listed above. 4. Any portions of plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents involving soil science work prepared in part by a licensee operating as a consultant on a project shall place his or her signature on the pages of the document for which the licensee is responsible. 5. No licensee shall affix his or her seal or signature to plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents developed by others, not under the licensee's responsible charge or work as defined by TCA Section 62.18.203. 6. Responsible charge of work. Paragraph A. Plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents involving soil science work prepared in part or in whole by a licensee or the licensee's subordinate will be deemed to have been prepared under the responsible charge or work of the licensee only when 1. The client or employer requesting preparation of plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents makes the request directly to the licensee or to the licensee's subordinate at the time initial client or employer contact is made, so long as the licensee has the right to control and direct the subordinate in the material detail of how the work is to be performed. 2. The licensee supervises and is involved in the preparation and approval of the plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents and has input into and full knowledge of their preparation prior to their completion. 3. The licensee reviews the final plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents. And 4. The licensee has the authority to and does make any necessary and appropriate changes to the final plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents. B. Any changes made to the final plans, plats, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents after the final revision and sealing by the licensee are prohibited by any person other than the licensee. C. The mere review of work prepared by another person, even if that person is the licensee's subordinate, does not constitute responsible charge of work unless the licensee has met the criteria set out above. Rule 0780-05-06-.09 Civil Penalties. Paragraph 1. With respect to any licensed professional soil scientist, the Commissioner may, in addition to or in lieu of any other lawful disciplinary action, assess a civil penalty against such licensee for each separate violation of a statute, rule, or Commissioner's order pertaining to licensed professional soil scientists in accordance with the following schedule. Paragraph A. TCA 62.18.203, 0 to 1,000. B. TCA 62.18.216, 0 to $1,000. C. Rule 0780-05-06-.08, 0 to $1,000. D. Rule 0780-05-06-.10, 0 to $1,000. E. Commissioner's Order, 0 to $1,000. Paragraph 2. With respect to any other person required to be licensed in this state as a licensed professional soil scientist, the Commissioner may assess a civil penalty against such person for each violation of statute in accordance with the following schedule. Paragraph A. TCA Section 62.18.204, 0 to $1,000. Paragraph 3. Each day of continued violation may constitute a separate violation. 4. In determining the amount of any penalty to be assessed pursuant to this rule, the Commissioner may consider such factors as the following. A. Whether the amount imposed will be a substantial economic deterrent to the violator. B. The circumstances leading to the violation. C. The severity of the violation and risk of harm to the public. D. The economic benefits gained by the violator as a result of noncompliance. And E. The interest of the public. Rule 0780-05-06-.10, Code of Professional Conduct. Paragraph 1. Licensees shall uphold the public health, safety, and welfare in the performance of professional services. 2. Licensees shall observe and comply with all federal, state, and local building, fire, safety, real estate, or mining codes, as well as other laws, codes, ordinances, or regulations pertaining to the practice of soil science. 3. Licensees shall not undertake any type of work that he or she is not competent to undertake unless the licensee discloses his or her lack of training, experience, or education in writing to all appropriate parties prior to undertaking the work. 4. Licensees shall not affix their signatures and/or seal any plans, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents with subject matter in which they lack competence acquired through education or experience, nor shall licensees affix their signatures and/or seal plans, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents that were not prepared or reviewed by the licensee or the licensee's subordinate and approved by the licensee. 5. Opinions expressed by licensees for any purpose in the course of his or her professional practice shall only be based on their education and experience. 6. Licensees shall not disclose any information about the lawful business affairs or technical processes of a client or employer without the approval of the client or employer or the client employer's designated representative, unless required by subpoena or in response to a complaint filed by the Commissioner. 7. Licensees shall not knowingly participate in any illegal activities or knowingly permit the publication of his or her plans, drawings, reports, or other soil science papers or documents for illegal purpose. 8. Licensees shall not issue false or misleading information or statements to a client. 9. No licensee shall accept compensation or any other consideration from more than one interested party for the same service without the written consent of all interested parties. 10. No licensee shall accept or offer commissions or allowances directly or indirectly from third parties dealing with the client or employer in connection with work for which the licensee is in responsible charge. 11. Before the execution of a contract to perform soil science services, a licensee shall disclose to the client or employer any actual or potential conflicts of interest which may affect the licensee's ability to serve the client or employer. 12. Licensees shall not engage in false or misleading advertising or otherwise misrepresent any matters to the public. Rule 0780-05-06-.11, Continuing Education. Paragraph 1. Continuing education hours means an hour consisting of not less than 50 minutes of instruction or presentation acceptable to the Commissioner or as otherwise noted in this rule. Continuing education hours received through post-secondary education institutions will be awarded according to the following table. Paragraph A, 1 university semester hour of credit is 15 continuing education hours. And B, 1 university quarter hour of credit is 10 continuing education hours. 2. A license holder seeking regular biennial renewal shall, as a prerequisite for such renewal, show that he or she has completed no less than 12 hours of continuing education during the 2-year period immediately preceding renewal. 3. One of the 12 continuing education hours each licensee obtains for renewal shall be in ethics. 4. Activities eligible for continuing education hours include, paragraph A, professional meetings, no maximum, including short courses, workshops, clinics, conferences, symposia, seminars, field days, scientific presentations, and distance education. B. Self-directed study, including reading of scientific journals and books with a 2,500-word professional article equaling 1 continuing education hour. Self-directed study may account for a maximum of 3 continuing education hours per 2-year period. C. Soil science-related community service, 2 continuing education hours maximum per renewal period, including serving on committees and community service related to the profession of soil science. Such service shall be deemed to be equal to 2 continuing education hours per 2-year period. D. Authoring or preparation of educational materials. This credit may claim Credit may be claimed only on the renewal period in which the educational materials are initially prepared and or presented. Such work should be deemed to be equal to 2 continuing education hours per 2-year period. Paragraph 5. Each license holder shall, in making application for renewal, submit on the prescribed form a signed statement setting forth the number of continuing education hours which he or she has completed during the reporting period. Such license holder shall retain documentation supporting such statement for at least 5 years subsequent to the date of submission. Paragraph 6. The Commissioner will verify information submitted by license holders under this rule on a random basis. Paragraph 7. If any continuing education hours claimed in a statement submitted by a license holder pursuant to paragraph 5 of this rule are disapproved, the Commissioner shall notify such license holder of the reason for disapproval. The Commissioner may allow a specified period of time, up to 6 months, for correction of the deficiencies noted. Rule 0780-05-06-.12 Reciprocity. Pursuant to TCA Section 6218.212, the Commissioner may grant a license as a professional soil scientist to an individual who holds a like unexpired license as a professional soil scientist issued by another state, territory, or possession of the United States, the District of Columbia, or any foreign country if such jurisdiction's examination and requirements for licensure are of a standard substantially equal to those required by the Commissioner for initial licensure in Tennessee. Such applicant shall file with the Commissioner the required application and fee, along with the proof that the applicant holds a current valid license as a professional soil scientist and the requirements necessary for obtaining such license. Okay, this is the comment period now that we've read the rules into the record. So what we'll do is, where's the sign-in sheet? Just going to read the names off the sign-in sheet, and if you want to make some comments, please come up to the front. And if you don't have any comments, just acknowledge that. Number 1 is Kyle Etheridge. Number 2, John Gibby.
No comment.
3 is David Litsky.
Yes, I would like to make a few comments. The Soil Scientist Advisory Committee met several times and tried to put together some good rules so we won't have any dissent in the audience if possible. So on August 8th, 2011, we had our first organizing meeting of the Soil Scientist Advisory Committee. On August 22nd, 2011, there was a joint meeting in Knoxville with the Soil Scientists Association of Tennessee to go over the first draft of our proposed rules. On September 12th, 2011, the second meeting with the Soil Scientists Association of Tennessee in Cookeville to review revised rules and to consider additional new rules. On October 11th, 2011, there was a third meeting at Natchez State Park to complete work on the proposed rules. These proposed rules were then put on the Soil Scientist Society of Tennessee website for review. And the comments and questions that came in, I think, came into me, and I responded. And I think we had some questions about qualifying courses and that sort of thing for, especially for people wanting to be licensed in the institutions where there's really no soils program, but they have environmental sciences and that sort of thing. And then between October 11th, 2011 and January 27th, Kevin Rayleigh emailed a complete set of the rules, including the design for the seal to Donna Mulder. And I'm happy that we're meeting and to get these rules finalized. And I think, and I'm only speaking for myself and not for the committee, but I'm pleased with what we've come up with.
Thank you very much. Doesn't say on the sign-in sheet, but I'm going to need a contact information, written address or an email or something. Kevin Rayleigh?
No comment.
John Amons? Gabe Krantz?
I decline. Thank you.
Okay. And Randy Etheridge?
Yes,
Visiting. And Scott Fellwalk. Good, that's great. I mean, it sounds like we have them about the way we need them then. All right, that concludes the rulemaking hearing for now. What I have to do by statute is to read into the record an economic impact statement. Regulatory Flexibility Act, Tennessee Code Sections 54-5-401 et sec, requires that as part of the rulemaking process, pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 4-5-201 et sec, all agencies shall review all proposed rules and the effect that the proposed rules have on small businesses. The Act requires that as part of its analysis, each agency shall prepare an economic impact statement as an addendum to each rule that is deemed to affect small businesses, which shall be published in the Tennessee Administrative Register, filed with the Secretary of State's office, and made available to all interested parties, including the Secretary of State, Attorney General, and the House and Senate Government Operations Committee. The economic impact statement shall include the following: the type or types of small businesses and an identification and estimate of the number of small businesses subject to the proposed rule, the projected reporting, record-keeping, and other administrative costs required for compliance with the proposed rule, including the type of professional skills necessary for preparation of the report or record, a statement of the probable effect on impacted small businesses and consumers, a description of any less burdensome, less intrusive, or less costly alternative methods of achieving the purposes and/or objectives of the proposed rule that may exist, and to what extent such alternative means might be less burdensome to small businesses, a comparison of the proposed rule with any federal or state counterparts, and analysis of the effect of the possible exemption of small businesses for all of or any part of the requirements contained in the proposed rule. Description of proposed rule. The Tennessee Professional Soil Scientist Licensing Program convened a rulemaking hearing on October 29, 2013, in order to consider amending current program rules relative to retired and inactive statuses, renewal requirements, professional conduct and disciplinary issues, and reciprocity requirements. These proposed rule amendments concern updates that shall apply to all of the program's registrants. The rules contained in the notice of rulemaking would replace current relative requirements with the proposed updated standards where applicable. And there's a series of 6 questions here. Economic impact statement. pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-401 et sec. Number 1, types and estimated number of small businesses directly affected. And the proposed answer to this question by the department is these amendments would not impact small businesses because the program licenses only individuals. 2, projected reporting, record keeping, and other administrative costs. Proposed answer is small businesses employing professional soil scientists required to be licensed may experience negligible record-keeping issues, but this is unlikely and any expense would be minimal. 3, probable effect on small businesses. There is no expected adverse impact on small businesses as a result of these amendments. Less burdensome, intrusive, or costly alternative methods. The program knows of no other alternative method to achieve the goals exhibited by these rules. Comparison with federal and state counterparts. There are no federal counterparts to the issues addressed by these rules. Effect of possible exemption of small businesses. There will be no exemptions created by these rules relative to small businesses. And the last thing, effect on local governments pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-228. The Tennessee Professional Soil Scientist Licensing Program licenses only individuals and foresees no financial impact on any local governments, nor does the program exercise jurisdiction over local governments.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion from the committee to approve or reject these as written.
Move that we approve as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Having none, call for a vote from the advisory committee members.
Hang on just 1 second. John Gibby.
Aye.
Kevin Rayleigh.
Aye.
Kyle Edwards.
Aye.
John Amons.
Aye.
Debbie Lexi.
Yes.
Final point of business, so the meeting is adjourned.
I can copy it down real quick if you need me to. Correct spellings and stuff. Do you guys need that
Keep me off the
transcript?
nervous driving today. Driving with that fall.